I don't remember what banning that. It must not have been a ban unless someone unbanned you. It must have been a timeout. It's just like, what happens is people just start to feel like they can show up and let's talk generally as opposed to like this particular channel, right? Like sometimes on the internet, people feel like they can show up and treat whoever they're talking to with like extreme disrespect or whatever in a way that like would never happen in real life. And I mean, if you feel that way about someone, that's fine. But like, there's no reason I should put up with that on my own stream, right? Like, so that's when I time people out, it tends to be for reasons like that. It's like, who are you even? Who are you even talking to, right? Why are you saying the stuff that you're saying, right? And I don't, and getting into arguments about that is itself time consuming. And like, I'm trying to program and trying to stream. So that's just, at this point, I'm just very fast to pull triggers like that because I don't have the time or the interest in dealing with the internet. Okay, interestingly, so what happened was there's this code right here, and I was like, I don't even know if this can legally happen anymore. I kind of don't think, like, there's some stuff in polymorph that's just like old. So I was about to go work on the Jackass stuff some more, but then I'm like, well, we're looking at what we need to do in terms of parameter bakes and um, why don't I try to clean that up a little bit so that it's simpler, etc. All right. Um, Here we go. I appreciate the apology though. Like a lot of people just don't, you know, I don't know. Like, thanks, because a lot of people just double down and get more mad or whatever, and it's like at that point, it's unrecoverable, right? Because like, what am I gonna do? So, um, okay, what is happening here? What is happening here? Okay, so I don't see this output happening for Sokoban game, but really what I kind of want to do is put an assert false here and run this in debug on everything just in case like one of the weird tests does this. Um, so if something fails, oh, yeah, okay, it looks like we've got at least one example of tripping this. Which doesn't mean that we need this particular branch of code actually, because what I noticed is like, look, it's doing the same stuff as like this down here. So the question is, do we really need a special case for it? Like this thing right here, like if we just set expert to argtype, I mean, maybe expert already is argtype even in this case. So I just want to go back and look at these examples. Um, all right, so yeah, we have 3 tests that invoke this. They're all polymorphism tests. Um, let's maybe look at which one of these is the cleanest. Um, okay. Yeah. Okay, let's just run on this. And hit that assert. And I want to know what expr is, because this checking the type, sometimes when we're dealing with old code, it could be a product of me not having been sure back at that time, like I changed as I was confused in developing the type system for the compiler and stuff. I changed several times, like what were the invariants around how things are represented. Although actually, no, I believe this is probably correct. So expr is probably like null. Or no, it's not. Okay, it's not even assigned. So never mind. This actually all makes sense to me. So this is going to be, if we look at the type definition, right? It's going to have defines constants block entry set, and that's going to point us at we should be able to, there, A. So A is, this. Yeah. So this all matches up and makes sense. So the question is, do we really need to do this? Because and the reason why I'm saying that is because whatever works for a struct is supposed to work for a function, and this is very struct specific. So I'm like, why are we doing a very struct specific thing here? So I think if we just set this expression in this other case, it looks like we would come down and do the same thing and just do this. And that would just reduce a certain amount of complexity. Let me try that experiment. So we're going to go if 0 and all this. And instead of doing it that way, we're going to put the if here. All right. We're going to say if it defines constants block entry. So, and then in that case, we're just going to go this. It's like, look, we're matching against so down here when we do check the types match, okay, this is very confusing. Like this should probably be null actually, just because, I don't know. Okay, no, it actually could end up being null here, but this was just making me nervous. So like here, expr doesn't really matter because we're matching against arg type anyway. May not actually be necessary. Let's just see. We're just going to try to bake this down and simplify it out. So it probably doesn't work, but it might. Let's see. Oh, it did. Okay. I didn't expect to be that fortunate. It looks like it works, I guess. I should have actually run this. You know what? Let me run the release compiler, which is from before we did any of these changes. Oh, wait, that had the cowabunga in there, but it didn't assert false, so that's fine. Okay, it did the same output, so these are supposed to be zeros and stuff. I just wasn't sure because I haven't looked at the output of this program in like forever. Let's just run it on the tests. What was the decided price on paid beta? I don't think it's going to be a flat price to start. I think it's going to be more like we'll have a limited number of slots and scarcity can determine the price in some way. And then as time goes on, we just increase the number of slots and the price goes down. Yeah, I mean, it'll clearly be 24, right? Why would we accept less than 24? But I don't think it'll be like, you know, because we're not exactly trying to sell software licenses right now. It's just like a way to fund the beta, and we want more people in the beta program because that's good, but we don't want too many more yet, right? You know what I'm saying? Because we can only handle so many people, and you know, we're trying to do a good job supporting the compiler for all the people who are in early, who, you know, they're using the pre-baked version that's not totally done. All right, well, all the tests passed, so that's great. So I'm going to do this, and I mean, you know, look, this really did need to be taken care of a bit, right? So, dude, I actually don't even know. Like when things are this big. Okay, yeah, so that's the outer thing. Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. Let's just, for avoidance of doubt, here's what we do. We go down here before we do anything and we say, what is this? Okay, that goes to that source desc or declaration auto bake. And this one is the while loop, which makes sense because it's the bake cursor. So we're just going to make sure that we leave that intact. All right. Boom. Right. And so we get rid of that. And this is declaration auto bake. This is the while loop. Okay, very good. Still, you know, as you can see, I would definitely like to remove even more of this code. Like, let's try that as well, because I think that is the more correct thing to do. Oh, it's not. It is not the more correct thing to do. Or maybe I made a different problem. Try to be here when spots open. I mean, we'll announce it ahead of time, right? It won't be like a sneaky thing. We will definitely announce it and say, you know, whatever the slots are, here's the time. Like, we want people to know. Um, so like what I'll probably do when we figure, because I still haven't figured out exactly what we're doing here. All right. This was, let's figure out if that was the problem or anyway. So like, I guess what I'll do is, you know, I'll do some streams and we'll just post the news like in small print on the stream or something so that people can find out. Battle Royale over access. Well, we want to grow the beta pool over time, and if everybody dies trying to get into the first group, then we don't have more people for the later groups, right? That is not how we want to do it. Okay. This was done in the midst of antiquity. Not quite sure why it is supposed to be right, but changing it to arg expert breaks. Okay, so at least I'm documenting my relative ignorance. Let me at least even put this here. Okay, so I think I'm even going to just check this in before we go on and do Jackass stuff, because the Jackass stuff could be destabilizing. Although I want to keep looking at this, right? So this is something that we're probably going to want to factor out. In fact, let's just do this. Whoops. And the reason we're splitting that out is because we're going to want to do something based on this variable regarding the Jackass stuff. Okay. So let me look through this. Like, why is this necessarily... Okay, I get that. I mean, for this one, I don't know why we're doing this separately. Like, so what this code looks like to me is this isn't that different from this. So why isn't this handled up here, right? But if I move this across this, I guess, okay, wait, no, never mind. These are mutually exclusive. So actually I want to clean this up a little bit more. So what if no expr? This down here, this is no expr, right? Yeah. So this reports an error. Wait. It maybe reports an error. Except we allow this in some cases. And then this, yeah, we're going to want to thin this code out a little bit. So we return if we're not allowed. So I'm going to go bool allowed equals maybe report missing bake error. And this is a but pain because we have to pass all sorts of stuff like arg expr progress this I don't even know what variables we're going to need here. Anyway, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to be like, if not allowed, return. So this just makes sure that we signal in an error so that if the code decays, we don't have like a silent return. Okay. Okay, so that's more readable. Still some stuff we can do here, but all right. So this is called maybe report missing bake error. Progress is asked polymorph progress, right? Asked polymorph. There's a polymorph and an asked polymorph, which are pretty different from each other. Okay. So we're still going to be missing some variables there. And we didn't pass silent check, which we probably want. I think. Yeah. Let's put that there. All right. Cool. I really would like some hot cinnamon spice tea as well. This is what I'm thinking right now. Okay. Cool. I don't know why we have this. I should remove that. I'm going to write that down to take that out. It's just not the right way to do things. If we want statistics on what the compiler is doing, we can do that a different way. Okay, so when I try to build this, it's going to be missing some variables still, I'm sure. Interp, right? All right. Source desk. Decal. And I. All right. So that's just a little more readable. I don't usually factor things for readability, but this function is just spread out enough and hard enough to understand that it just felt like the right thing in this case. Especially once you have all the Jackass accounting in here and stuff, which we will get rid of, I think, eventually. But it just makes it even more squirrely to read. Hey, all right. Oops. Dang it. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. It was taking its time. Did I buy chocolate? No, I forgot. But I had a pretty chill day where I didn't even drive anywhere, which I would have had to do to get the chocolate. So I think what we're saying is tomorrow's chocolate day, really. How cross-platform is the language? Well, in principle, it's totally cross-platform. In practice, right now, we only support Windows and Linux. We sort of had a Mac port going, but we have not been maintaining that as a way to make things simpler. All right. So simplify a little. Oh, it's the wrong thing. Let's not check that in. That's the wrong thing. Simplify a little bit of polymorph stuff. Good news, good news. Okay. Still a little bit weird. Let's look at this one. Whoops, I forgot the equals. Okay. So I think we do this because that's better because we do the weird cases up here, right? And even this, we can nest this in with that, which also will make more sense, I think. And then this doesn't even make sense anymore, which is good. Let me start that tea water going, though. Okay, there we go. We now have reasonable compiling happening. So let's delete that. Let us now bam bama jamma balamba. And then right. Let's actually also do this. We're going to be very C-like. We're going to go 4, nothing, there, there. And that way we don't need what was down there. And then this is like kind of weird, but it's like in this one case we don't add it, right? I'm just going to do the following thing. We're going to go bool baked equals false. Okay, let's not, okay, hold on. We're just racking in too many changes. We're just going to run this one. And while that's going, I'm going to do T stuff. Okay. This is good news. Good news, good news, good news. Okay. Good news. Good news. Now I am going to say baked equals true. We're going to put a no check in here so I don't forget. And the reason we're going to do that is we're just going to say if we didn't bake, we do this, and then we have an else, right? We actually could just that might be simpler. I don't know. Anyway, so we're just simplifying the structure just a little bit. Okay, this is looking more sane to me. I dig it much more than how it looked like. So if this succeeds, we shall check this in. How's it going, everybody? What is happening? Further polymorph, clean up. We are cleaning up the cleaning up. Ah, yes, I had wanted to remember to do this, which is what we're going to do now. Bam. All right. Now what? I think the condition of the if for the new function is the same as the outer one. No, it's actually not quite. This is an is required flag, and the previous one is just if it's a bake. Yeah, this is has auto bake, and this is auto bake is required. And so it's a little bit different. That said, We maybe should do this in a cleaner way. I don't know. It's fine. Okay, so this info auto bake is going to go away. Because it only made sense. Remove this flag as it doesn't really make sense once baking is no longer an experimental feature, which it hasn't been in a long time. All right, so delete that, and we delete this as well. So it's really not much of a code cleanup, but we just remove one little concept from the compiler that otherwise would be there, and just make things as simple as you can, guys, because, oh my God, if you don't do that, it'd be crazy. Is ifx metaprogram or compiler? I don't understand the question. What do you mean by metaprogram or compiler? Like, in this language, anything you can do in a metaprogram, you can do in a regular program. So there's not like any... It's not like C++ where there's a template language and a regular language, right? It's all the same language. Okay, very good. You wonder why they decided to create that distinction? Because they were doing a very different thing from what we're doing. And it seemed to make sense to them at the time. It was a very bad thing. Like, you could look at other languages like D that do a similar thing to what C++ did, but cleaner, right? Ifx is a keyword. It is a keyword. Why haven't you had a notification? Because Twitch is a website, really. I mean, what else do you want to know? Twitch is a website. It is built on web so-called technologies. If there's one thing we know about web technologies, it is they are not technologies. Yeah, I mean, the human eye can't even see 50 minutes, right? I don't know what kind of expectations that you have. Okay. So I think I start looking at Jackass stuff now. Um, so where is the define? It's in general.h. We're gonna turn it to 01. It says that it notifies subscribers, or actually no, actually it doesn't. It says it will not notify non-subscribers, which you will note says nothing about subscribers. Did anyone get an email notification? Or a pop-up? Or a bike messenger showing up at their house saying the stream has begun? Did anyone get that? Had no pop-up. Okay, well, everybody got the pigeons, though. So some of these systems are more reliable than others, is what we're seeing. Okay, so when Jackass is enabled, now we are doing new things. Why don't I just name this programming language Jackass? So we have our already resulted, and we get our pre-success and pre-crimes, right? So let's run that on Sokoban and see, remind ourselves of the numbers. Okay. So again, we have yields in various places. We do 7,700 polymorphs, which is a lot. But again, I think we can streamline that. Pre-crime detected 409, and 3 seashells detected 4873. So this is the 3 seashells right here. It's not called the same thing. So that's more than half. In fact, it's like 2/3, right? Almost. Which means that okay, wait. I see. Right. So we return a bool from here about if we already saw this, and then this tells us if we already succeeded or failed, and we're actually using the already failed information. here. So it's really the already succeeded information that is going to be a little bit tricky. And the reason that's tricky is because it doesn't just depend on types. Although, you know, we need that for the failed information too. So this is actually a little bit presumptuous. Anyway, so the deal is right now we are saying Jackass types, right? We're saving the type of every input argument. What we also need to do is auto bake may, what did we call it? Auto bakes may occur. So like here. Okay, this is weird. And in fact, did we Jackass yield 6? No. See, I have this, like, I just checked this a little while ago. But I don't like this. I don't like having to do this. So the problem is we actually want to use this variable for what we're about to do with the Jackass data initialization. So we want to move this Jackass thing actually, you know, down to here. And the thing is, I don't know, let's just see what's going on here. Because we want to do a loop just like this and look at the types. And if they're not ready, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm just going to put an assert false there and see if we trip something. And then we'll just try to figure out why. It might be that it was due to a different bug that has since been cleaned up, right? Like, I've done a number of things to polymorph. Finally, a notification. Oh, different stream. Okay. So do you not get notifications about this channel only or about all of them? Like, does anyone have notification problems only here? Do we include comments in the syntax tree? We do not currently. You know, I mean, I've thought about it a little bit, but I feel like the reason you want to include comments in the syntax tree is in case you're rewriting the file or something, right? Like you want to process the whole file. And the thing is, if you want to process the whole file, you kind of don't necessarily want to do that from the syntax tree, because if you do that, you're just destroying some kind of information or other. Like, for example, if you've got a numeric literal and it uses underscores in it, right? We don't give you that information. And rather than give you all that information, right? It's probably better if you just modify things. You just take the old text and then you look at the ranges of the things you're replacing and like modify them or whatever, right? So I feel like for full file replace ops, that's maybe going to be the way to do it. Therefore, I'm not really worrying about the comments thing right now. And because we don't do that, you can put comments anywhere because, of course, it doesn't matter. Praise the value. Okay. Okay. Did we do this? I think we did this. So I'm just going to say we don't need this yield anymore. And if we ever need it, then we need it. But here, okay. We're just going to do this. We're going to assert this, and I'm just going to run the tests again. Why? Because we're also going to move this jackass situation down to here. And the reason why we're moving this down here is because now we know this. We could say we're going to build some array that has the bakes in it. I mean, here we're just going to go right, then we don't need this assertion. Do we even use source type? Source type. We do down there. Okay. Source type, source defin. Let's make it less confusing. Okay. Let's find out what that does. Maybe they send notifications about sub-only streams to subs, but maybe they send them to subs of other streams, right? Like maybe everybody who subscribes to Ninja gets all the sub-only notifications for everybody. That could be the situation. Okay, well, that was successful. So now for everything that has auto bake, see, this sucks. Lil sucks. Maybe it doesn't suck. Maybe it doesn't suck because we could say okay. What was I just about to do? That. Okay, so this thing that we were doing here is a little bit like we sort of want to reproduce this logic in two places. Is kind of what I'm saying. Like we want to firstly do it we want to do it here still where we're doing it, right? But we also want to know these because these are the things that we need to these are the things that we need to like constant expression match against. Now I'm having trouble thinking about a few of these. Because this, okay, we can't, I think we actually want to do this early in the process. Is there anything that prevents us from doing this before we do the Jackass? Because actually, we want to do the check that types match. Like, what happens before this? Oh, handling polymorphic default values. That one's scary. I don't even know what's going on there. That one's scary. Right, and that needs to be before prepping for bake. For sure. I mean, maybe the Jackass just goes down. No, because we want Jackass before solve for matches. That's the whole point. For performance reasons, we want to not to have to do this. what if instead of worrying about the bakes right now, actually, what if we just cache for the type matches? What were the matches? Right? Because then we could put the Jackass stuff here. Then who goes to restart? Down here. Oh, symmetric function. Bro. Okay. How did the talk go? I think some people liked it and some people very much didn't like it. And the format was really annoying because I ended up answering questions in the middle of the talk. And half the questions were, what about this thing, which is a thing that I was going to talk about later in the talk. And half the questions were just people arguing with me. And like trying to argue with people before you can even say everything you're trying to say is like a shitty format. So I didn't like that. So this is an interesting problem here because I'm trying to figure out what is the best thing to do. If I just want to match on, okay, I could match on argument types, which lets me do it as early as possible, but raises this question about bakes. Like the problem is if bakes were all very well defined values, it would be easy, but they're not. They're like things like overloads. But I guess we can say, is it exactly the same set of overloads, right? Like we just have to get more serious about that stuff. I'm just trying to think for a second about what to do about this. So, like even this right here, I think structs with varargs actually works. So that's weird. It's just we don't set it. Like that looks weird. That looks like something we already handle. So it makes me wonder WTF is up with this. Okay. Attempt to use varargs on structs. Not what we're thinking about right now. What we're thinking about is how do we correctly enforce the language semantic, which is that a unique set of arguments passed to a polymorph procedure will always produce the same result. And instead of caching that on the back end after we do all the work, we want to cache that on the front end and do a lot less work. And I'm tossing around in my head two different options. One option is to just actually maybe just try to skip this part and not the whole polymorph. Which we could do, like, because, you know, match solving is a little expensive. But polymorphing is also a little expensive. It's probably more expensive. So really, I would like to skip every frickin' thing here. And so the question is that definition that for any unique set of arguments, well, it's, and I didn't even, like, it's actually more precise than that. It's like for any non-polymorphic argument, or not any non-Bake argument, it's just the type that matters, right? And then for any Bake argument, it's the value. And so the question is, in cases like this code that we were just doing earlier in the stream, or that we were modifying and cleaning up, these are weird cases. Now, I guess we can have the Jackass comparator compare all of these specifically. Okay, either we look at the expression as it stands before it goes in, right? Or like before we do this loop, or we do this loop and we match up and we say, oh, this expression gets baked to this argument, this one gets baked to that argument, and so forth. Problem is we can't do this till after polymorphic default values. Yeah, oh, we got to skip all this stuff. Okay, so yeah, this writes it back into the args array. And we're really just error checking here. Okay, we could make this wait, what? I don't understand this. So we're saying if the expr given is still the argument, but wouldn't that be not equal? Following case was causing this problem. Okay, like we literally, I see. This is just for yielding on things. We don't actually write anything back. I don't get it. This looks to me like old code. Oh, because maybe we shove that into expr given? We don't, though. This looks to me like old code that isn't supposed to be this way. Okay, so this is matched to, yeah, that's what I thought. So this just says this, which doesn't make that much sense to me. I think that not is reversed. Hold on, what? Very confused here again. Let's zoom it out. I wish Emacs could zoom out while actually keeping me in the same place. So here we see the whole thing. Far's data of I is equal to expert. Wait, that's on here. Yeah, okay. Let's do this. Right? That's clearer. And then wait, why are we continuing though? Also, why would we ever yield here? I see. I'm just going to put that there. Because, like, that just seems a little too gnarly. And then this source variable comes down here. But like even this continue, like that looks old. That looks old to me because we're doing unrelated things in this procedure. So I think we want that. And then even this, I don't know why this is here. Is different default values in a struct a different type? Every struct is a different type, even if it has the same member types. That's just how this works. So to have different default values, you would have to have two different structs, and therefore they would be different types. And like this one, and like we could swap this around because then we don't have to call this function. I don't even know why this even matters. Like that definitely should be commented. Like here's a thing about code, guys. When you're writing it for the first time, you know why you're doing the things, right? But people later just don't know. But because like it's hard to know what someone else is not going to know, right? Like that's not a thing the human brain does very easily. And so it's very frequent to have this kind of thing here where I'm like, I don't know what this is for exactly, and it's not explained. I wrote it, so it's my fault that it's not explained. But I don't know what it's for. I don't understand what's happening. And I don't know if it's correct now or if this is like really old code based on some prior way that things worked, right? Which is why I'm doing this thing where sometimes I disable things and comment them out, especially when I'm in really old code like this, because it's like, if it's not explained, it really may not need to exist now. And it sure looks to me like it doesn't really need to exist. Like, I guess what... So wait, expr is... Like this comment is definitely very old. Because that was before we made this polymorph progress struct. And we're not even doing this now. It says plop that value back into args. Nobody's plopping anything back into args. Oh wait, down here. But that's not what, like, this does. Okay. I actually have a theory, so... I think this is really supposed to be... I think this is supposed to say something different than what it says. I guess we don't have a regression test for it, which is weird. Maybe it's modified to look different. But like, I want to make sure that I don't break this error message. Let's make sure this still actually works. All right. Okay. Let's invoke this. Foo of float okay. Here we go. We're invoking the error. Cannot be auto-baked because this would use a dependency, right? Okay. So that error message still works. Now, this thing this doesn't seem right. This seems like what we actually want is but that's not even right. Yeah, that didn't catch the error. And that wouldn't have even been right because you could insert a cast on top. Yeah, so if we have an auto bake, I mean, honestly, the correct test is whether that argument was filled as a default value. think what am I missing here? Do we not parentheses enough? Nope. Did not parentheses enough. Dang it. That didn't catch it either. I kind of don't understand. Kind of don't understand why that didn't work either. See, this is one of these complicated things that I wish wasn't so hard to think about, right? Anyway, I'm not actually going to rat hole on this because it's not important, really. It's just I wanted to clean up as much as I could right now, but this doesn't matter. So it was if we're on the first go through the loop and the first arc gets expert, or if we're on any subsequent iteration. Is the second part the same as args data 0 since I must be 0? Sorry, I didn't see that when you typed it, so I have no idea what you're talking about. Basically what this is saying is this the same as whatever the user passed when we set up the inputs? But actually that's not what this means, right? This is the confusing part, because it's like whatever was the original argument, which could have been supplied as a default argument, and I don't know, like the argument sorter would put the defaults in. That's like how that works, and we kind of want to know. I'm just going to write that I don't understand. I don't understand this expression. Seems like we would be checking whether this was the default argument supplied in the procedure header, but that is not what this does. When I try to do what I think it should be, things break. So further understanding here is needed, but I am working on other stuff right now. Okay. We're at least documenting our ignorance. Because it was I or args data. No, that was a 1. That was a 1 that I put in temporarily to disable that condition to make sure things still worked. I did this, right? Because I wanted to see, like, does something break if we don't test this? And the answer is no, nothing breaks. But that was not part of the original code. That was just something I did for a little bit. I see how that could be easy to read as I, though, because why would somebody ever put this? It does kind of look like the I in this font as well. It looks very close, actually. Like if you just blur the I a little bit, it looks the same. Okay, yeah, so we're just verifying. Okay, so I have a call at 7:30. So it's about time for me to get off. We could do any final questions. The place where I'm trying to get is, again, so that we can, with 100% confidence, basically look up in a hash table if we've already done this polymorph before. And if we have, just say what the resulting function is. And that should be a lot faster, and it should save us a significant amount of compile time work. And it should make me, for example, as a programmer, less afraid to like do more involved polymorphic stuff that uses modify, procs, and whatever, right? Because I know that those aren't going to run all the time. Whereas right now they do run all the time. And that's not the best. He runs with like a 10-point font. I did also make the font smaller for a bit, right? I had zoomed out. So now Emacs, of course, cannot zoom in and out without completely changing where you are in the file, because it is 1970s technology. But there you go. Yeah, so what I feel like is I'm going to do my call in a bit. But then I'll probably hop on again tonight, and I'll continue sub only because this has been a nice stream. I'll just continue in this vein, and we'll see if we can get it all the way turned on, which I am not sure if that's going to happen. But we'll at least get closer. We're already closer, right? Because we did these good cleanups. Let me see if there's anything worth checking in from this last thing. Oh, that was the getting rid of the info auto bake flag. Oh, we don't want to check in Jackass. But we could uncheck that. Oh, that whole factor out, or moving Jackass, and okay, we checked in the factor out. This is enough to check in. It's mostly like just cosmetic rearrangements, but I think it matters. But let's retest. Let's turn off Jackass again so that nobody else using the compiler has to see me being a jackass. We're going to run tests again. We're going to check it in. And then that's progress baseline for later tonight. So in a previous compiler demo, you used modify to prevent duplication of polymorphic functions. Now you're building into the compiler. No, modify still works the same, more or less. I mean, depending on when that demo was, it might be slightly different, but it's basically the same idea. But the thing is, running a modify is kind of expensive, right? Because you're like invoking compile time execution, and that's like a bytecode interpreter right now and stuff. Now, the thing is, you only should have to run the modifies for any particular unique set of arguments, right? But in an actual program, you reuse the same kinds of things very frequently. Like from our Jackass stats, right? 2/3 of the time, we're doing something we already tried, which is actually less than I expected, but still 2/3 of the time you invoke something polymorphic, we didn't know what that was. And I actually suspect that a lot of the remaining time is like some weird case that's not real that we should look at. Anyway, though, the point being, like you don't have to run all that stuff again, right? So right now what happens is we do the polymorph, we run all the modifies and whatever, we look at what came out of that, and then we see if that matches anything that already exists, and then we return you that function. So the step that we're skipping is just like building the bytecode for a redundant function. which is fine. I mean, that's better than not skipping anything. But we actually want to skip the entire matching and polymorph process and modify running and all that stuff, right? So that's kind of what we're doing here. All right, thanks everybody. Let us check. Oh, I did check it in, right? Or did I not? Did I close it? Did I check it in? This is the wrong program. I think I checked it in. No, I didn't. Okay. Remove info auto bake small refactors to polymorph.cpp. Cool. All right, thanks everybody. Maybe see you later tonight, etc. Have a good night. All these things.